Boxing Truth here. Back on the mic. Hope everyone had a happy holiday. Wanted to talk a little bit about Manny Pacquiao and his ring return for April of next year, which is being reported. Bob Arum was recently in the news talking about Manny's return. He reportedly reached out to him through Michael Kantz, his advisor. He wants to return to the ring. Manny still has the fighting spirit, wants to continue to fight, and rightfully so. He still feels he has it. Felt he beat Jeff Horn, and he had a good performance in that fight. All things considered, Jeff Horn was a much tougher opponent than people realize, and he still fought his ass off. Still showed that he can still compete with these young lions in that fight. But he's coming off a loss. It has diminished his value even more when it comes to the marketability in the United States. It's already been on the decline since his last fight was on ESPN, and the Queensland government paid his purse for that Jeff Horn fight, not ESPN. So there's going to be issues about his ring return. One, who the hell does Bob Arum really have to offer him, since his stable is diminishing of interesting opponents when it comes to a Manny Pacquiao fight? Bob Arum just doesn't have the welterweights in the stable. He's lost a couple of them to Al Heyman. Jesse Vargas left. Brandon Rios left to Al Heyman. Timothy Bradley's retired, so Crawford and Horn are going to be fighting each other. So what's really out there for Pacquiao's return on Bob Arum's side of things? What does he really have to offer him? And also, there's two questions about Manny's return. Who and where is he going to fight? Where is the money available for Pacquiao's purse demands to come to the ring, to come back to the ring? It's not there in the United States. There's only one opponent that comes to mind if Manny's going to return to the United States. If he's not going to fight, obviously he's not going to fight the PBC welterweights. It's going to be someone in Bob Arum's stable for Manny's ring return. However, there are rumors going on out there about Manny is looking to expire the deal he has with Bob Arum, that the deal's already expired, that he's trying to jump ship. And if that is true, for Manny's sake, I really hope that is true, because Bob Arum really has nothing to offer him when it comes to prospective opponents, interesting opponents that can generate the type of event that Manny's been in before. Him losing his WO strap has diminished his value. He's no longer whacking guys out of there. So he's still a great fighter, but he's not that fighter from 7 years ago, which is why his value and marketability has diminished. Getting knocked out by Marquez didn't help. His ring record has been sabotaged by these bullshit decisions. He really only has 4 losses on his record, but the official results can still hurt you outside of the ring. You not getting the official result can still have an impact on your marketability, your value, and that's really what has affected Manny Pacquiao's career now that he's in the twilight and still wants to continue to fight. So I'm thinking, who does Bob Arum have to offer him? Because he has no welterweights to offer him. He has no junior welterweights to offer him that are available, at least. I mean, who the hell wants to see Manny Pacquiao fight Konstantin Ponomarev? Nobody. And Manny Pacquiao is looking for an interesting opponent. Bob Arum suggested, from the article I read, to perhaps fight on the undercard of Horn Crawford, which was very insulting. That's a fucking insult. Manny Pacquiao ain't fighting on no fucking undercards. So he wants an interesting opponent. He can still fight. He can still fight the best fighters out there. Can still hang with the young lions. However, he's not going to fight the PBC welterweights. Bob Arum's not going to risk him with Thurman or Spence, since those fights are not big enough, and also those guys are not available anyways. So I'm wondering if Bob is thinking what I'm thinking, and perhaps matching Vasyl Lomachenko against Manny Pacquiao. I mean, the fight's been talked about over the past year. There's been reports about it. There's been talk about maybe Manny coming down to 135, maybe coming down to 140. And Lomachenko, he wants to be remembered. He wants to do something extraordinary in his career. He's still not impressed with his career credentials. Even though what he's done in his career, it has been impressive. He has one of the best resumes you ever see in 11 fights. I mean, just compare his first 11 fights to Terence Crawford's first 11 fights, and people are calling him pound number one. And you look at his first 11 fights, he was fighting complete nobodies in ballrooms in the middle of nowhere. So Lomachenko has already surpassed some expectations when it comes to being fast-tracked, and he's one of the most fast-tracked fighters you'll ever see in the history of boxing. So people are starting to wonder how good he is. This is the type of assignment that is going to define Vasyl Lomachenko's career. This is something that he wants to do in terms of being remembered, in terms of being a legend in the sport. And what better way to do it by moving up to the weight divisions, perhaps meeting Pacquiao at a catch weight at 140 pounds to challenge the aging but still legendary fighter in Manny Pacquiao. That's the fight that I can only think of right now that makes sense for Manny Pacquiao if he's still going to stay with Bob Arum. If he still is contractually obligated to Bob Arum. That is the only fight that makes sense. Lomachenko, he's got a lot of buzz going about him, and Bob Arum is pumped about him. He's more pumped about him than Terence Crawford. He feels Lomachenko could potentially be a pay-per-view star. And he's talking about prospective opponents to perhaps fill out the big room at MSG, in Madison Square Garden. I asked Bob Arum that, and he wasn't really sure. He wanted to get by the fight with Rigondeaux first and then see what prospective opponents are out there. But since Lomachenko has no options currently at the table, no attractive options, why not just risk it against Manny Pacquiao at 140 pounds? It will be a big fight. I don't know how big it will be, but it will be a significant fight. It'll be a very interesting fight. And the odds for that fight will be very interesting to look at. I mean, who will be the favorite? Maybe Manny will be the favorite, but only ever so slightly. It'll be reminiscent of what Manny Pacquiao did almost a decade ago. And it's funny how boxing history repeats itself, because it seems like Lomachenko is this generation's Manny Pacquiao. At this same time frame, at practically the same age, he's 29 years old right now, Lomachenko is. When Manny Pacquiao was 29 years old, he was fighting in the same weight class as Vasyl Lomachenko. Then he took one fight at lightweight, and then he fought Oscar De La Hoya in 2008. Moved up 2 weight divisions and beat the crap out of him, and he was a significant underdog in that fight. And he was on the verge of being 30 years old going into that fight. Just 9 days later, after Oscar De La Hoya, he turned 30 years old. So Lomachenko is going to turn 30 in February of next year. And it just seems like everything's put into place. The stars are aligned for Lomachenko to take that challenge, to do something extraordinary in his career. Something that people want to see from him because they expect so much from him. They see the talent, they see the skill set, they see the unbelievable tricks and moves that he's created within his boxing style. Manny Pacquiao changed the game in the decade prior to before, and Lomachenko just took it to an even another level with the moves that he's created. The next generations down the line are going to be mimicking Lomachenko's move and coming up with their own. Lomachenko, in his way, has changed the game. So it just seems like it's destined that Bob Arum is going to pull the trigger on this fight. Match Lomachenko against Manny Pacquiao in a passing of the torch type of fight. Yeah, Pacquiao's coming off a loss, but controversial. Many people feel he still won the fight. He still is a capable fighter, still a great fighter, and he's not near as done as Oscar De La Hoya was when he fought Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao still has some left, even at 39 years of age. But he's getting older, and he's not as active as he once was. So he's there to be taken, especially by an elite, smaller fighter like Lomachenko. Will Lomachenko be willing to take that challenge if the fight is offered to him? Why wouldn't he take this challenge? What other fight is out there for him? Why would he want to have another bullshit title defense like a Mariaga type of opponent? Because there's really no options at 130 pounds. Burchell, you don't want that work right now. He's coming off an injury, so you can't expect him to fight a Lomachenko coming off an injury. Wants to take a couple of voluntaries, perhaps has to make a defense against Mickey Roman. He's not really available right now. Tank Davis, I get it. Floyd Mayweather wants to protect him right now, wants to make that fight as big as possible. If he's going to risk his best fighter against Lomachenko, the fight's not going to happen. Tank Davis doesn't want to speak Lomachenko's name. Quiet as hell. When Lomachenko calls him out, you don't want no smoke with him. So it is what it is. They don't want that fight now because Floyd Mayweather, he's a good matchmaker, Floyd Mayweather. He was a good matchmaker of his own career. But he knows damn well that Lomachenko would trash Tank Davis right now. So that's why he's not going to make that fight. Machado, who gives a shit about that fight? Care less about it. Who else is involved at 130? Agawa, not a big fight. Who cares about that fight? Mike Garcia, who knows if he beats Lipinets, but I really doubt he fights Lomachenko. Linares is a possible fight, but he's not available until later in 2018. So what's out there for Lomachenko that's really that attractive? That's really that a big option? And what's out there for Manny Pacquiao if he's still going to stay with Bob Arum? They might as well just fight each other. It's a fight Bob Arum has wanted to see. He's wanted to make. And it'll be a very interesting fight. The old line against the young line. The one fighter who changed the game against another fighter who has perhaps even upgraded it to another level. It will be a fascinating fight between Manny Pacquiao and Vasyl Lomachenko, and most likely at 140 pounds. And most likely, Lomachenko will win the fight if he can take Manny Pacquiao's power and speed and not get hit with his left hand. But Manny will still be capable of winning the fight since he still has some left to give to the sport. But Manny has to make a lot of changes if he's going to continue his career. If he's going to stay with Bob Arum, that's the only fight out there for him right now, Lomachenko. There's nothing else out there. The Conor McGregor fight, that would have been perfect for him to return, get back in the limelight, fight a big name, be back on pay-per-view. You know, that would be a perfect fight for him to return. But McGregor, no one knows what the hell he's up to. No one knows what his next move is. Seriously doubt he fights Pacquiao coming off a loss to Floyd Mayweather. And having that type of money that he's made, he's going buck wild right now. He's really not focused on fighting. Still has to make a decision after making the type of money he's made at only 29 years of age. So he's got some thinking to do about his future. Doubt he returns to the boxing ring in his immediate fight. But I know damn well he's not going to return to the UFC fighting for the same purses that he's been fighting for. So if Manny can't get the Lomachenko fight, he might as well just venture out on his own, do his own thing, run out his contract with Top Rank if it's still if he's still contractually obligated. Because the ship has sailed between him and Top Rank. Bob has nothing to offer him, not much anyways. His team around him, Freddie Roach is washed. He needs to get rid of him as well. Michael Kontz, they all had an impact on how the last fight with Jeff Horn went. Freddie Roach didn't do much studying on Jeff Horn. Michael Kontz hired a bunch of sparring partners that didn't match the physicality of Jeff Horn. He was sparring with lightweights in preparation for that fight. Freddie Roach is washed. Allowed Miguel Cotto to take an L. Took Saddam Ali in his last fight. Embarrassing. There hardly is ever any happy endings in boxing. And Manny Pacquiao's most likely ending, it won't be no different. If he continues his career, he's got to make some changes in his corner, his advisory, and when it comes to advice. Otherwise, it's going to be another sad ending for another legendary fighter. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.